all rise, please. Hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the Honorable Stacey Force, Chief Justice of the District Court. The Honorable Mark Tobin, First Justice of the Quincy District Court, for the presentation of Law Day. Please draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and this honorable court. You may be seated.
Good morning, everyone. At this time, we invite Father Matt Williams from St. John the Baptist Church in Quincy to give the invocation.
Good morning. And I couldn't resist. In Arthur Tobin fashion, I'd like to just begin with a little joke. I was walking in my parking lot recently, and I found a $20 bill. And I said, "What would Jesus do?" So I turned it into wine.
That's really good.
Thank you. Let us pray. Almighty, ever-living God, source of all justice, you govern the world with order and mercy, guiding the hearts of rulers and the minds of citizens towards peace and freedom. On this law day, as we mark the 250th anniversary of the founding of our nation, we give you thanks for the gift of liberty, for the rule of law that upholds the dignity of each person, and for the enduring wisdom of those who shaped our constitutional order. We remember with gratitude the patriots of this city of Quincy, sons and daughters of freedom, who pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor in defense of a new nation conceived in liberty. May their courage inspire us today to uphold the ideals of justice, equality, and the common good. Lord, as St. Paul reminds us in Scripture, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Send your Spirit upon all who serve in the courts, in public office, and in the practice of law. Grant them wisdom and deliberation, compassion and judgment, and steadfast commitment to the truth. Make us ever mindful, Lord, that freedom is not only a gift, but a responsibility. Teach us to use our liberty rightly, to defend life in all its stages, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves, to heal division, and to build a society rooted in justice and peace. We pray in thanksgiving as we echo the words of the sacred psalmist. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he has chosen as his own inheritance. May this day renew our dedication to thy calling of justice, and may your grace guide our city, our nation, and all who dwell within it, now and always. Amen.
To bring greetings and introduce members of the judiciary, distinguished guests, elected and appointed officials, I present the First Justice of the Quincy District Court, the Honorable Mark Tobin.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome on behalf of Acting Clerk Magistrate Jackie Burke, Chief Probation Officer Kim Grunberg, Chief Court Officer Anthony Holmes. I want to welcome you to the Francis X. Bellotti Courthouse for our annual Law Day celebration. I just want to take a couple of minutes before we start, and no need for applause as I go through, but I do want to recognize public and elected officials and other appointed officials who are here today. So I'll start down here. Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, Speaker Ron Mariano, District Attorney Mike Morrissey, Court Administrator Tom Ambrosino, County Treasurer Mike Bellotti. You'll notice I put Mike Bellotti every year right in front of me, so I could control his behavior. Mayor Tom Koch, Attorney Tom Kiley, Tara Healy, a great friend of this court, and Mr. Tobin's the executive director of the re-election campaign of the governor and lieutenant governor. Ken Halloran, attorney, retired state police lieutenant. Erin Joyce, Mayor of Braintree. Mike Melise, congratulations, the mayor of Weymouth. I'm going to now turn to legislators. I saw Bruce Ayers way in the back in the corner. Is Senator Keenan here? No. Jamie Murphy from Weymouth. Brandy Fuqua-Reed from Milton. Dick Wells from Milton and Randolph. Former Representative Steve Tobin. Local officials, Ann Mahoney from the Quincy City Council, and I guess town manager, right, in Holbrook. Ryan Sterling, Joseph Reynolds, Dave Ringus from the Braintree Town Council, Peter Christopher from the Milton Select Board, Richard Ash from Quincy City Council, Maggie McGee from the Quincy City Council, Sheriff Pat McDermott I saw here, Special Sheriff Chris Bell, County Commissioner Richard Stady I saw. I think that takes care of that side of the room. The police chiefs and the Colonel Jeffrey Noble from the State Police, Robert Joseph, the chief of Braintree, Mark Kennedy, the chief of Quincy, William Quigley from Cohasset, David Del Papa from Holbrook, John King from Milton. Is Melissa here?
Right here.
Oh, there you are. Melissa Green, the deputy chief from Randolph, and Richard Fuller from Weymouth. Now I'm going to start with my colleagues, the judges. I'll start on this side. Retired Judge Steve Abaney, former clerk at the court. Tommy Brownell, former judge, former state representative, being honored this weekend in Quincy with the, very proud of you. I hope your wife is here someplace.
No, she's home.
Okay. Honor Siegel, Bob Harness, Paula Clifford, Chief Justice of the Juvenile Court, Dana Gershengorn. See, I don't have to look at my notes for this. So, Mary Orfanello, Mary Beth Heffernan.
You may applaud if you'd like.
Dan O'Malley, Siobhan Foley, Neil Hurahan, first Deputy Commissioner of Probation, newly appointed, congratulations, Brian Marisolo. Sal Paterna, Sal's here, okay. Where's Jay Brennan? Former Chief Probation Officer Jay Brennan. And I think that's it. So I'm sorry if I missed anybody. If I missed, I said Dan O'Malley. Could you mind your own business, Judge Heffernan? I've got. You remember when Ronald Reagan said, "I've got the microphone"?
I know that's your area.
All right.
I've been here all week, folks.
All right. So, a round of applause for all the, oh, I'm sorry. I neglected one person, and I'm going to live to regret this if I don't cure my mistake. Former Mayor William Phelan from Quincy. So, this is there's Jay Brennan in the very back there. This is a significant and memorable day for all of us at the Quincy District Court. It's significant in three ways. First, this will be the last law day in this building. Thanks to many people in this room, including Chief Justice Fortin and Court Administrator Ambrosino, the Governor's Office, our legislative delegation, Mayor Koch, there will be a new Quincy District Court building. I know you'll all miss this place. As of this fall, we will be moving to a temporary building up in Crown Colony. When we move, this building will be demolished, and rising from the ashes, just like the phoenix in Greek mythology, there will be a new court building on this site in hopefully the not too distant future. Second, we honor, as we do each year, law enforcement, but not just the law enforcement officers, but the families of law enforcement officers. We recognize as a court the dangers that are inherent in the law enforcement profession. Just a week ago today, a state trooper was hit on Route 93 in his cruiser. So it is always significant for us to pay our respects to law enforcement. But most memorable and most significant for today is our recognition of the work of Clerk Magistrate Arthur Tobin. You see his picture there, who served as the clerk magistrate in this court for 44 years. I just want to say a few things because there are a lot of people who want to speak on his behalf. As I reflected on what I wanted to say today, and we worked together for 27 years, I recognized that Mr. Tobin in a lot of ways was a simple man. He had a great love for his family. He was a man of deep faith in his religion. He was a son of Quincy. He committed his life to the people of Quincy. He was born here. He was raised here. He lived here his entire life, other than his years in the service. And he was committed to this country as a proud Marine who served in Korea. But he wasn't just a simple man, he was a great man. He was a great man. All he ever wanted to do was help people. And he taught all of us at the court that it was our job to help people. And he had a great respect for the court as an institution. He always called me Judge Coven. For 27 years, I always called him Mr. Tobin, to the day before he died. So I just want to tell two quick stories before I turn it over to the speakers that illustrate these points. For those of you who were ever in Mr. Tobin's office, in the clerk's office, he had a window, a door window, where you could see out what was going on in the clerk's office and the counter, but you couldn't see in. So one day the two of us were just sitting in there, and somebody came to the counter, saw Joni Dunn, who was the office manager there, and he said, I've got a problem, and Mr. Tobin told me to come down and that he would take care of the problem, or that you would take care of the problem. So I looked over to Mr. Tobin and I said, well, who is that person? He said, I've never seen him in my life. So I said, well, should I send him on his way? He said, no. Let's find out what his problem is and see if we could help him. Well, that was Arthur Tobin, the kindest man you would ever know. Now, in terms of the respect for the institution, again, true story, a number of years ago, Fox News was doing a story. It had something to do with clerks taking bails. And Mr. Tobin had nothing to do with the substance of the story. But they must have been looking for a clerk who they could film for their story. Because that night there was a story on Fox News that showed Mr. Tobin walking to his car. and he got ambushed in the parking garage, as many politicians have happened to. He called me up. He felt terrible. He said, I had nothing to do with this story. I don't know why they filmed me. Should I call the Chief Justice? Should I apologize? He was devastated. I said, well, Mr. Tobin, let me look at the news tonight, and I'll call you back, and we'll decide what the appropriate response is. Well, just coincidentally, and true, it happened to be Ash Wednesday. And Mr. Tobin in the film had an ash that was prominent on his forehead. So I called him up. I said, Mr. Tobin, you don't have to apologize. If you ever run for office again in Quincy, that's worth 50,000 votes. It's now my pleasure to invite Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll to address us. We're blessed and very fortunate to have you here. It's a terrible drive from Salem to here early in the morning. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here. It's never a terrible drive to get to Salem, right? We say hard to get to, but worth it in Salem. It's terrific to be here today. Definitely want to acknowledge so many of the folks who were recognized already. Speaker Mariano, Mayor Koch, once a mayor, always a mayor. I noted that Mr. Tobin's biography left off the fact that he was 29th mayor in Quincy. Somebody once said to me, I served in Salem for 17 years. Tom, you've got me beat by a few. Mike and Aaron, you're still in those early years. I said, is there term limits for mayor? And I said, yes, sanity is your term limit. Mr. Tobin was quite sane. He only served for one term. But it's terrific to be joined by so many distinguished officials, members of the legislature, members of the law community, the court community who were here, the judiciary. So grateful to see so many community leaders. It's truly an honor to join you in Quincy, a community that is near and dear to my heart and reminds me a lot of the coastal community that I live in. Before anything else, I think it's really fitting to acknowledge the life and legacy of Arthur Tobin. Arthur's commitment to public service was just extraordinary. As a mayor, a state representative, a clerk magistrate for this court, he devoted much of his life to serving the people of Quincy. For decades, he was a trusted presence in the community, someone who understood that public service is not about recognition or titles, but about showing up and doing the work and helping people. And I've always felt like if you love where you live and you can be in a position to influence and shape that community, it's such a blessing. And I think Mr. Tobin just recognized that early on. His legacy reminds us that strong communities are built by people who dedicate themselves to something larger than just their own profession. And to Arthur's family, I know I met your son earlier. Thank you for sharing him with Quincy. It is hard on a family when somebody is so dedicated and doing the work every single day to benefit the place that they live. I think we are very grateful that he gave not only to his community, but really to the entire Commonwealth. And it's fitting that we're honoring him today. That spirit of service, I think, is what is bringing all of us together. It is what knits us together. You know, I've had the occasion to be at Law Day before. Quincy does it right. I mean, this is a terrific opportunity to reflect on something that can easily be taken for granted, especially now at a time of such division in our community, where civic institutions feel like they're being attacked. These are the institutions that hold community and people together. Our courts, our legal system, our law enforcement professionals, the public servants who work every single day, often quietly, often without fanfare. You don't know the people you're serving, but you are there to make your community better, to ensure that neighborhoods are safe, that disputes are resolved fairly, that laws are applied equally, and that justice remains accessible to all. These institutions matter because people matter, and institutions are only as strong as the people who serve within them. It's why today's awards are really so meaningful as well. We're recognizing 23 police officers and 1 Massachusetts State Trooper with the Robert P. Dana Distinguished Law Enforcement Award. These honorees come from Quincy and Weymouth, Braintree, Randolph, Milton, Cohasset, and the Massachusetts State Police. They each have their own stories and their own paths to service, but they share a common commitment, a willingness to put the needs of others ahead of themselves. You know, most days the work of public servants happens without headlines. It happens in the calls that are answered, the crises that are de-escalated, the victims that have been comforted, the problems solved, and the countless moments when someone just chooses to do the right thing simply because they're there and they can help and they know that's part of their duty. Those moments don't always make the news, but they matter deeply to the people whose lives are touched or impacted by them. And today's recognition sends an important message that service matters, that character matters, and that people who dedicate themselves to helping their neighbors are seen, appreciated, and respected, even in the small ways that don't make the headlines. I also want to acknowledge the significance of the awards themselves. The Robert P. Dana Distinguished Law Enforcement Award, the Trooper Mark Charbonnier Award, and the Rabbi Jacob Mann Social Justice Award each honor individuals whose lives embodied service, courage, and justice. Their names remind us that public service takes many forms, but it is always, always rooted in commitment to others. It's especially meaningful to me that we're gathering this year, and I know to the Colonel as well, following the tragic loss of Massachusetts State Trooper Kevin Traynor. Kevin was a Salem native. My kids and his brothers and sisters all attended the same school. His passing is a solemn reminder that service often carries real risk and real sacrifice. Behind every uniform is a family, a loved one, a community, and a person who's chosen a profession dedicated to protecting others. We remember Trooper Traynor, we remember Boston firefighter Bob Kilduff, and all those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their communities and for our Commonwealth. This year, it's also particularly significant that we're here celebrating Law Day because we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of American independence. Truth be told, we're actually ahead of the curve. It's 251 years for us when we go back to Lexington Green and that bridge in Concord. I think we're so fortunate that here in Massachusetts, so much of our nation's story began right here. We're reminded that democracy and self-government depends on more than the laws that are written on paper. It depends on citizens willing to stand on a green in Lexington or a bridge in Concord, willing to serve, that there are institutions worthy of public trust, and people who carry out the responsibility with integrity. That was true 250 years ago today. Collective action coming together to spearhead a new nation. And I think Law Day is ultimately a celebration of that shared commitment we have to each other. It's a reminder that justice is just not self-executing. It requires judges and clerks, attorneys, law enforcement officers, advocates, public servants, and frankly, everyday citizens who work to uphold the principles that bind us together as a society. It requires people who believe that their communities are worth serving. And that's exactly what we're honoring today. So as we remember Arthur Tobin, celebrate all of the recipients, and recognize the important work of Quincy District Court, the last time we'll have this ceremony in this building, let's all renew our appreciation for the people who dedicate themselves to law and public service, not for applause or recognition, not for the awards that we're giving out today, but because they care deeply about their neighbors and their communities. So congratulations to all of today's honorees. Thank you for your service, your professionalism, and your example. Thank you to Mr. Tobin, who certainly embodied all of that. This is well-deserved recognition at a time when it can feel very divisive and that, frankly, there's so many things to complain about. Today is a day to celebrate people caring about each other, caring about their neighbors, and willing to do the hard work that democracy demands. Congratulations.
It's now my pleasure to call on Speaker Ronald Mariano, a great friend of Mr. Tobin, a great childhood friend. So, you were a child. I didn't mean to imply that you were 95.
I got to think about that. Well, that's an insult or a compliment that I made it up here on my own. Again, thank you, Your Honor, for inviting me and allowing me to say a few words on part 2 of my biography of growing up in Quincy Point and being influenced by the people who went ahead of me. I began last year with my story about Rabbi Mann, who I was his employee for all the high holidays. Well, there was a connection with Arthur Tobin that isn't well known, isn't known a lot by many political people in Quincy. And that is when we were in middle school, whatever those years are, whatever the ages are. And it was election day, and I lived right next to the polling place, and it was an exciting day. And when you're in the 6th, 5th, 7th, 8th grade, it's a lot of activity, a lot of people out voting. And we would get charged up about it, picking candidates just by the pictures on the cards. But it sparked an interest in us in politics. And as we aged into high school, we had a couple of us run for office at Quincy High and be successful. And so the bug was floating around. And the first one that ever got a paycheck out of politics was Bob Sarasoli. And he's probably still got the first paycheck. I know he has it. But Arthur Tobin hired him to work in his office and to write legislation and to help with the political strategies and to do the grunt work, put up signs, deliver flyers. And Sarasoli dragged us into it, Ramondi and me. And that began the beginning of our little effort to try and improve where we lived. And we did it with Arthur's help through the years. It was mostly in the form of advice in summer employment, which was very effective for us. Earning our own money was great. You know, and I just want to point out the fact that, and the only reason I wanted to take my notes is because I never remember all the positions he served. You know, as a state senator, president of the Quincy City Council, mayor of Quincy, chair of the Quincy School Committee, and clerk magistrate of this Frank Bellotti courthouse. So that name was always in front of us. Arthur Tobin seemed to be always doing something. If you picked up the newspaper, and when JDA was the station that everyone listened to, he'd have the lines stacked for the call-in shows, and everyone would be talking about the tremendous job that Arthur was doing. And everyone was supportive. And he had a great run. He was great for the city. He was great to us when he had no actual reason to be good to us at all. But he cared. He cared. And if you went to see him, you get an honest shake. My father was a union officer in the shipyard. And when Bethlehem Steel went on strike a number of different times, and the folks at the picket line would be across the street in the bars, it could get pretty hairy. And when Arthur was around and Arthur was the mayor, he stepped in to make sure they all got a fair shot. So those things that you pick up at the dinner table and you learn that that's all you really have to do. If you want to be successful in this business, give everyone a fair shot. And it's a lesson I take with me to this day. I want to congratulate the family. I had the pleasure of working with Steve, and I'm very fortunate that we're going to let the legacy continue a little bit because I hired his grandson, and he's here somewhere. And you're not his grandson. Oh, I thought you were taking credit. He wants to be everyone's son. No, but it's an honor for me to have him and to know that the public service gene runs strong in the family, and we hope he'll continue in his grandfather's footsteps. So it's an honor for me to have him. We mostly talk about basketball. We don't talk about political history. But he's an up-and-comer, folks, so I'm glad I'm on the back nine. So with that, thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
A couple more people have come in that I just want to introduce. Governor's Counselor Tamisha Civil, there's a seat for you up here. Senator Keenan, we have a seat for you right up front, Senator. Okay. It's now my pleasure to introduce the mayor of the city of Quincy. I'm going to release him after he talks. He's got a funeral to attend to, so.
Early release. Thank you, Judge. Good morning, everybody. Distinguished justices, members of law enforcement, the folks that really work hard every day at this court. I know Arthur appreciated the work they did each and every day. To my colleagues in government, Mayor Phelan, Mayor Joyce, Mayor Melise, it's good to be with you this morning. And I'm grateful for all the work that goes on in this courthouse. I'm certainly in tune with our police department on all those things that happen on a daily basis. I'm talking to a young officer recently who just got on and grew up in Quincy and was amazed the stuff he didn't see that goes on in the community, and that's why we need our police department to keep that law and order. And I know that partnership with the court has been tremendous. Just want to mention a couple of things about Arthur Tobin. Obviously, we've heard about his distinguished career. Pretty remarkable, U.S. Marine, Quincy City Council, Council President, Mayor, Senator, Clerk of Courts for decades. And the one word I think of when I think about Arthur is really compassion. He really cared about people, and he was old school, and that's a good thing. I know today tradition and old school have bad meanings, but they really don't. Old school meaning he cared about people, helped people. There were two stories that I just want to share, two quick stories. They relate to two different phone calls I got from Arthur at the time. One was when I was a park commissioner, and he called, and I said, "Hey, how you doing, Mr. Clerk? I want to talk to you." I says, "Okay, what's going on?" No. I want to talk to you. I want to see you. I says, "Okay. When do you want to get together?" "What are you doing now?" I says, "Okay, I'll come to you. I'll be out front. Pick me up." But he had something on his mind, and he wanted to get it done. And I certainly did my part to help him on that day. Another call I got many years later, after my son was in the Marine Corps. I got a call from the clerk, and he says, "I'm just checking in. How's the Marine doing? Where is he? What's his assignment?" He loved the brotherhood of the Marine Corps. He truly did. And that, I think, in part shaped him for who he became. So Law Day was a little different this year. There's definitely a void in this room. I've been to many of them. His spirit is still with us. We're grateful for his service. Ronnie alluded to it growing up. I was one of those kids always delivering flyers and involved. And McIntyre, Han, and Tobin, those were the giants in politics growing up. So we're grateful for his service, and Shirley, his lovely wife, and we know they're home with their maker. So God bless their souls, and have a great day, everybody.
Now to speak on behalf of the staff of the courthouse, where Mr. Tobin was so beloved by everyone here, is Acting Clerk Magistrate Jackie Burke.
Good morning. I'd like to share a poem that I wrote called Mr. Tobin's Law Day. Some of you may know this, some of you may not, but Mr. Tobin loved Law Day. He loved it a lot. Mr. Tobin was a planner. Every last thing was thought out. The logistics of it all consumed him, no doubt. The parking, the seating, the refreshments, and fanfare. Did I mention the parking? All calculated with care. Invitations to be sent, not electronically, but by mail. Mr. Tobin would obsess over every detail. The program, the speakers, the greeters, the seaters, the chairs and the mics, the lighting and decor, staff members tasked to show each person through the door. If I close my eyes, I can hear him now. Jackie, do this. Joni, do that. Jen, see if we can line up Father Matt. Call Kenny Halloran to discuss the Charbonnier awardee. And don't forget Mark Crosby and Quincy Access TV. Call Georgie and Leo. Call Mr. Chu. Roll out the red carpet, for nothing less will do. Mr. Tobin wanted to make each and every person who walked through that door feel special. The details all mattered because Mr. Tobin wanted it right. to give each honoree, award recipient, and guest their rightfully deserved limelight. This day was never about him. It was about recognizing all the others, those who uphold the rule of law and law enforcement sisters and brothers. A lover of Law Day down to his core, but of course, that's not what defined Mr. Tobin. There was so much more. He was a mayor, city councilor, senator, state representative, and clerk. A distinguished lifelong career in public service work. More importantly, he was a friend, husband, brother, papa, and dad. To me, he was simply the best boss I've ever had. The lessons he taught me are numerous too many to share them all, so I'll just share a few. He always reminded me that no matter what he was going through, someone had it worse than he, that everyone has their struggles, even some you can't see. He taught me to look at the positives in life, to not let issues linger, to choose peace over strife. Mr. Tobin was compassionate, empathetic, and kind. A legacy of helping others is what he left behind. So today, on our first law day without him in 45 years, I won't be surprised if there are some tears. On our last in this courthouse before we move, this one's for you, Mr. T. I hope you approve.
Stephen, are you ready to follow that?
Reading my mind.
Yeah.
Reading my mind. When did this become the VIP section? This is generally where they hold the custodies, I'm sorry to tell you. Well, I'm going to change my opening line. My opening line is now, that was really good. I hope you can see there's nobody better than our Jackie. Thank you, darling. I love you. So beautiful. The night that Judge Horahan's retirement was held in Quincy, Jackie wrote a poem that was ridiculously good. I said, she's like armed. She's armed. Well, good morning, everybody. And those of you who are here for the second part of the portion, I'm sorry for the delay. We'll move this right along. I'm very pleased that Judge Coven and the committee have decided to dedicate this first portion of Law Day to my father. Those of you who can see this portrait up here, that's a really significant photo. It was actually taken in the clerk's office with his books behind him by a famous photographer by the name of Bill Brett. Bill's brother was Jimmy. I served with Jimmy in the house. Ronnie did, Michael, we all did. And the brother was a great photographer. And what they did was they published a book of prominent Irish Bostonians. And to see my dad in that book, all I could think of was that each of the people who were depicted with a photo and a story gave a little bit more aura to the others in the book. I mean, it's just a priceless gem, prominent Boston Irish, and that photo was in it. And I think that it's probably by agreement of my family that that's our favorite photo of my dad that my mother isn't in. There are very many other photos we love, but this one, that's a beautiful thing. Before I introduce my family who are able to be here, I'd like to welcome and thank certain other special participants in the program. You can't overstate. Father Matt Williams, who was my dad's confessor and frequent visitor. My dad was very, very into the local churches and supported them in all ways, and Father Matt returned that. Rabbi Lizelle Chabad, welcome to you. He's going to be part of our ceremony at the end. Lieutenant Governor Driscoll did a great job. I think we can all agree. Quincy's own Speaker of the House of Representatives, Ron Mariano, before I was able to put together a campaign committee in 1987 when I first ran for office, my dad had Dan Raimondi and Ron Mariano in our living room because he trusted their political instincts and wanted to get some good advice from them. So Ron, it's been a lifetime. Thank you for everything. Mayor Koch, I think just left, but very kind of him. Madam Clerk Jackie Burke, also Trooper Matt Johnson, who's receiving the Charbonnier Award, which is particular to my heart. And I'd also like to recognize the chiefs and the officers of the different departments that are here at Quincy in this jurisdiction. Braintree, Cohasset, Holbrook, Randolph, Weymouth, Milton, and Quincy, and they're here with their families. And I think it was the LG who said that the families are just so impacted, and we don't always recognize that. But it's true about my family. I mean, my dad in all of his years did have an effect on my mom and the children. But I would say that, you know, we were carved a certain way. We weren't ever overwhelmed by anything. It was more or less growing up as my dad's son. It was always something to me that my dad was such a widely acknowledged great guy. I loved it. I also want to thank, because I'm still practicing law and it makes sense to do this, especially the judges who have worked in this court and who still work here. Underappreciated, they do a great job. In particular, I'd like to thank somebody who loves Quincy Court, Chief Justice Forts. Judge Colvin has no peer, he's unparalleled. Some of our other fine judges, Judge Gershengorn, who actually is the Chief Justice of the Juvenile Court. She sits in Boston, and I'm told that she still sits on cases. She isn't an administrator. She sits on cases to keep her finger in the mix. Judge Clifford, Judge Orfanello, who's here back from retirement, Judge Siegel, Judge Heffernan, Siobhan Foley, Steve Abaney, welcome back. Tom Brownell, who was a neighbor of mine and a dear friend, Judge Horahan. And I just can't say enough for the 5 ladies who actually run the Law Day Committee. They need to be recognized, and I would say Joni, and I would say Rose, and Tricia, and Jen, and Rosanna. Thank you for putting on such a wonderful event. This really was dear to my dad's heart. He would be very proud of your efforts, if he could say so. I am so grateful to have the family that I do, and I can just look out and there you guys are. Thanks for being here. They've supported me during a difficult period these past few months, and they've asked me to express their deep appreciation that you would make my dad's memory a part of Law Day. First, I'm pleased to introduce my brother Mark. Mark is a retired juvenile clerk, and he was sitting beside me. Mark's right there. Mark. How's it feel to get your first applause? My sister Kellyanne and her husband Don Greenwood. Don is a retired Quincy policeman and a retired bird colonel from the United States Army. They're here with my nieces, and my niece Taylor Ann is now an attorney at law. And where's Maddie? Oh, behind him. And my niece Maddie. Thank you guys for being here today. Mark, yours was louder.
I don't know why.
My sister Tracy, who helped me write this. Thank you, Tracy. and Bill Phelan, her husband. Bill is a practitioner of law and well-known in this court. His son, William, who Ron indicated loves William. I think everybody in the State House loves you. William is at Suffolk Law School, and they're here with their children, Rachel, Brianne, and, I'm sorry, Kerry couldn't be here, but my brother Brian and his wife Lynn. They have a lovely daughter. She's my goddaughter. That's Brenna. Recognize you. Brian retired from the Quincy Police Department with the rank of lieutenant. Brenna has just graduated with a master's degree from Bridgewater in education. My brother Bruce and his wife Christine. Bruce is retired from the Mass State Police with the rank of sergeant, and Christine continues to be the breadwinner in that family. My son Sean is here. My son Sean, my first child, I love him to death. He's here for his grandfather today, loved his grandfather, and it was mutual. Sean works in the administrative office, helping Chief Justice Gershon Gorn run the juvenile court. I'd like to note how proud my father was that Sean, Taylor Ann, and William followed him into the field of law, but it's true that all of the grandchildren, all of them, made him proud. In my extended family, the children of my siblings, we have police officers, we have firefighters, we have fashion designers, we have financial titans, we have nurses, we have educators, and one grandchild who is actually qualified to drive a very unique limousine whose passenger is the President of the United States. Yes, they are very impressive grandchildren. My dad impressed me in a number of ways, but one really stands out. I remember that as I was campaigning for office in what year before the 90s, it was late 80s, I was running and I met a woman who, when she heard who I was and what I was doing, she was very effusive in her praise for my father. She said, "That is a great man. He's your father. I'll vote for you." I said, "This is great." And I went at the end of the day, I always checked in with him. He wanted to know what kind of a reception I was getting, knocking doors. And I told him I'd met this woman, and she was really impressed with you, Dad. What's up with that? And he told me the story. He had recently come to the clerk's office, and he was walking the hallways one day, and he happened to just notice that there were a number of women sitting on the benches in the hallway. And they had baby carriages, and they had young children, and they had babies. And most of them were just talking to each other sadly. Babies were crying, and he noticed as the day wore on that some of them were still there. And he said to somebody, "What's going on with all of this congestion in the hallways?" And someone said, "Mr. Tobin, these women are here seeking protective orders, or they're victims or witnesses in domestic violence cases." He realized that these women needed a different form of treatment, a comfortable place, not a hallway, an advocate to help out, because a courthouse is no place for small children. Well, other than the ones that were here for their dads or moms today. So he decided to find the space and devise a system to process their cases faster to help them to do just a quick stay here and not be around all day. And this became a message that went about, because this hadn't really been something that was normal at that time. And the message he created was that women in abusive and violent circumstances would be recognized, prioritized, and helped. And the woman who I met, her name was Bernie. She let me call her that, although she was a doctor. I think her last name was McPherson. She happened to be the director of a new agency called Dove, and she had worked with my dad about these changes he was implementing to help these victims. I'm proud of him for so many reasons. That one was awesome, that I met this woman out of nowhere, and she just laid out for me how great a man she thought my dad was. Well, over the years, I really respected the relationships that my dad had with the court officers and the court prosecutors. He knew and respected each one of you. And you treated him so well. My family today is still humbled by the consideration and courtesy that Maddie and Chris would extend to my dad. He couldn't drive for the past few years, so we would put him in the car and we would bring him to the back door, and Matt and Chris would be waiting. They would help set up the wheelchair and put the footrest down, and they'd kind of like fight for the honor of who's going to push his wheelchair into the clerk's office. You guys have no idea. Thank you. He knew Maddie's son was Frankie. He would always tell Chris Tufo, he'd say, "Boy, I could tell you some stories about your grandfather." And family, I guess. And in the clerk's office, Jay, I want to thank you too. You did everything to help make him comfortable behind his desk and help him with his needs. He really would want to thank all of you for this, because essentially you constituted his work family. And that's true. There's no other way to explain it. You all were his other family. You all were my dad's family. I'm looking at the ladies of the clerk's office. Let me just tell you, they would come in to see him in his office, not to complain about anything, just to talk and say hi. He got to know about the pregnancies, the births, the engagements, the marriages, the birthdays and the graduations, and life flowed, and it was family. It is also true, this is the part Tracy wrote, it is also true that my dad had an open door for strangers, for the common person. People were told, go to the courthouse and ask for Mr. Tobin. Judge Coven even told that. I'm like, don't steal my whole speech. But he witnessed it. Go to the courthouse, just ask for Mr. Tobin. He will help you. Whatever they need, he can help you. And I think, I missed a line. He would know everything about you before you left his office, and that was all he wanted. He wanted to do a service, and he considered that its own reward. My dad was with us for a very long time, and it seemed we could have him forever. And I think you could make a strong argument that the desire to help others, whatever their need, can help you to live to be 95. Right up until he passed on January 16th, he was still trying to help. And right up to the end, he still kept his sense of humor. I was sitting beside his bed when someone called with a legal problem. He talked to the person, he said, "I know what to do. I'll get in touch with Dan O'Malley." I said, "What?" "Dad, I'm a lawyer." And I'm sitting right here. And he said, "Yeah, and while you're sitting there, can you look up Dan's number?" Danny, that's why I didn't mention you in the judges, because I had that go for. Hey, I also, please, my nephew Kyle is here. And I just wanted to acknowledge that Kyle is a firefighter and a former Marine. Every single one of you guys have done something to make your parents very proud. I love you all. I think that every time we come in here, we can all consider that this is not just a job, it's also a place where we spend half our lives. And we are family, and we do love each other. and I am going to get great service at the counter from now on. But, Your Honor, thank you much for the opportunity to recognize my dad. I appreciate it.
We're about to finish the first portion and move on to the second portion of the program. But I just wanted to finish with this. Again, another true story. When I first came to Quincy, which was, I had been a judge for some time, but I was assigned down here in 1999. Can't remember why, but I went over, if it was, I think on Washington Street, there was the old Enterprise rental car. And I went in there and I needed to rent a car, and they said, well, where do you work? And I said, well, I happen to work over at the Quincy District Court. And he said, oh, that's Mr. Tobin's court. 20 years later, I still, and I'm pretty well known now, I go around Quincy and they say, oh, you work at Mr. Tobin's court. So I just want to leave you with this. The Quincy District Court has always been Mr. Tobin's court. When we move to our temporary building, that will be Mr. Tobin's court. And when we have the new building, this will always be Arthur Tobin's court. Thank you very much. We're going to present the Mark Charbonnier Award now. I want to call up Kenny Halloran. Again, I introduced him, but I do want to say this. There is not a person, and Jackie was great talking about Mr. Tobin's involvement in Law Day. There's not been a single individual who helped Mr. Tobin, who helped me, who helped this court organize Law Day every year other than Kenny Halloran. So we're all indebted to you, Kenny.
Thanks, sir.
Bill?
Trooper Matt Johnson. Do you want to hold on? We can present it to him. Good morning, everyone. This story is, he actually did a lot more than it says here, but I'm always told to keep it short, so here he goes. This year, the Trooper Charbonnier Award is presented to Matt Johnson. Last July 10th at 11 a.m., a caller called into the barracks in South Boston to say that his car had been hit by gunfire while traveling southbound on the expressway in the Milton, Quincy area. The shots came from a tractor-trailer driver who was apparently enraged. The truck driver quickly took the exit at Furnace Brook and was able to escape identification. Fortunately, the victim wasn't injured, but there were several bullet holes in his car. Trooper Johnson was assigned to the case. With limited information, he began by canvassing all of the local businesses, apartment complexes, and highway cameras in the area, seeking security footage and possibly witnesses. Within a couple of weeks, he was able to determine the truck was registered to a company in Lebanon, Connecticut. He then traveled to the company headquarters. The owner was cooperative, and GPS logs and other information led to the identification of the driver, who was subsequently indicted for attempted murder and other charges. For his dedication and excellence in the performance of his duties, Trooper Johnson is presented the Mark Charbonnier Memorial Award. All right, congratulations. I guess just look that way. Let's do this. You're good.
Is Steve Charbonnier here?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, there you are. I neglected to say, for those of you who don't know the importance of the Mark Charbonnier Award, Mark was a state trooper, actually, with Ken Halloran, who was killed in the line of duty and had been at the Quincy District Court the day before he was killed. So that's why each year we honor his memory and make this award in his memory. The next part of the program, I'm going to call up District Attorney Morrissey, who now runs the next part of the program. But and this is personal to me, and I feel very strongly saying this. I've had the privilege, having worked in this court for 27 years, I've had the privilege and honor of working with wonderful district attorneys, starting with Bill Delahunt, Jeff Locke, Bill Keating, and then Mike Morrissey. I will tell all of you that history will remember Mike Morrissey as one of the great district attorneys in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The work he's done on behalf of victims of domestic violence, children suffering from physical or sexual abuse, protecting elderly from fraud, but most importantly, creating the largest law firm in the county of Norfolk, a professional staff that he's demanded treat everyone with respect and dignity. So we're all indebted to Mike Morrissey, and I'd ask that you give him a round of applause, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm not dead yet, but I appreciate it. And Jackie, I'll have to remember that, your favorite boss. You know, I got Jackie started, and the judge stole him, so let's start with that. So, good choice, Judge. Just one brief thing about Mr. Tobin. I've been in office for 50 years. I was elected in 1976, and the senator was Arthur Tobin. And I've had the pleasure of, he was one of my mentors. 22 years old, what do you know? Of course, if he wasn't around, Jimmy McIntyre was, so I had a twofer in the Senate, but I also had some great people like Tommy Brownell. Tommy was also part of the delegation, of Bobby Sarasoli and Jim Sheets. So as a young person, I learned a lot from Arthur, and some of that is just how to treat people, and I agree with you. I think Arthur and my father always were fond of saying, treat people how you want to be treated. And remember, the same people you see on the way up, you're going to see on the way down, so remember that. And Arthur was really good about constituent services, and I think, there's a lot that I learned from him, and I know that we all miss him, but he was truly a good mentor, and he wouldn't be unhappy to see this courthouse go, I can tell you that, and nor will I, actually. But this is my last opportunity as the elected official, and I've had some great people, some mayors, three of them are here today, and local officials, my friends in the legislature and the speaker, who I knew when they worked with Bobby Sarasoli, so I just wanted to thank them, and finally to the police officers and the police chiefs who have had the opportunity and the pleasure and honor of working with for the last 15 years. And this is one of the things that I really enjoy getting to do, because a lot of people forget. Just these people, men and women, just go out the door every day and they never know what they're going to find. Of course, it's like the courthouse. You never know what you're going to find either. And I've had the chance to serve with a lot of people in the legislature, 240 members down to 160. In fact, Judge Fort's father was a member of the legislature. Of course, I told her she wasn't old enough to vote when I was elected. So I just wanted to say to the chiefs, I'm going to call you up alphabetically. Anthony arranged this for me, so I appreciate that, Anthony. Jackie, you may get a second assist with some of the work that goes on, but just a little bit about Robert Dana, just to show you. Is anybody here from the Dana family? Sometimes the members show up. Robert Dana Distinguished Service Award is named after 29-year-old Metropolitan Police Department officer Robert Dana, who was fatally shot by a suspect on Blue Hills Parkway in Milton during a routine traffic stop 42 years ago. During the stop, Dana noticed a stolen television in the back seat of the car and returned to his patrol car to contact dispatchers, while a Milton police officer remained with the suspect. At some point, the suspect became agitated, gained control of the Milton police officer's service weapon, and fatally shot Officer Dana. Officer Dana, a U.S. Air Force veteran, was survived by a wife of 6 months and his parents. His widow was also a police officer. In presenting these awards, we are reminded that every day police officers go about their duty never knowing what their next call will entail. never knowing what dangers they may face and never knowing whether they will return home to their loved ones. It is a duty the public expects them to perform and a duty police officers undertake without reservation. Many times, officers are faced with challenges and perform above and beyond the call of duty, as we saw most recently with the award recipient from the state police. It is officers we recognize today with the Dana Award for their acts of bravery, distinguished service, and life-saving actions. The first department, as I call the department, so I'm going to ask the chiefs to come up as well. Chief Joseph, and the following officers: Patricia Conboy, Patrick McLeod, and James Walsh. Last summer, officers Patricia Conboy, Patrick McLeod, and James Walsh helped save the life of a driver who they later learned suffered a cardiac event before crashing her car. Officer Conboy was the first on the scene and found the driver unconscious, foaming from the mouth and nose, turning blue. Officer Conboy removed the driver from the car and began performing chest compressions. Officer McLeod and Walsh arrived and assisted providing air to the woman from an ambubag and administered Narcan. At one point, the woman opened her eyes and had signs of agonal breathing. The officers continued performing CPR until the ambulance personnel arrived and took her to the hospital. Officers later learned from the family that the woman laid unconscious in an intensive care unit for 4 days before receiving a pacemaker. Their teamwork, quick thinking, life-saving actions exemplified the highest training standards and dedication to their profession. Congratulations on the award. We also have Mayor Joyce with us, and I appreciate her help and support. And we want to get a quick picture before you sit down. So, Chief, sneak down the other end, or we'll. I know where the person is, but come on up, David. Take a quick picture. And then you have the official Braintree photographer if you can see. Cohasset, Chief Quigley, and this is one of my favorite awards. I actually thought I had hired this person, and I'll explain it in a minute. Sergeant Harrison Schmidt, please come forward. We had when you say nothing happens at Cohasset, when it happens, trust me. And this is one of those events, and one of the key players, and what I consider one of our biggest successes is Sergeant Schmidt. And I know that it wasn't easy for the chief to let him, he was attached to us at the hip for a long period of time, but as a detective in 2023, Sergeant Harrison Schmidt played a critical role in the investigation of Brian Walsh for the murder of his wife, Anna Walsh, a case that drew national and international attention. Schmidt's work helped the prosecution team, led by Greg Conham, Chief Trial Counsel. I think Greg is here someplace. I saw him earlier. Win a successful prosecution and the first-degree murder conviction without a body in over 100 years. From the outset of the investigation, Detective Schmidt demonstrated exceptional professionalism, sound judgment, strong investigative instincts. His interviews with Brian Walsh were instrumental in exposing inconsistencies, false statements, and the deception he helped shape the direction of the investigation. Sergeant Smith worked closely and tirelessly with the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, the Mass State Police, and other investigators throughout this complex homicide investigation. His professionalism, integrity, attention to detail helped build a strong case and ultimately resulted in the murder conviction and life sentence. The case brought extraordinary pressure, intense media attention, significant demands on all involved. Throughout, Sergeant Schmidt represented the Cohasset Police Department with professionalism and distinction, and my personal thanks. It was an honor to work with you. Congratulations, Sergeant. You can hide in the corners. Thank you. Congratulations, Sergeant. Thank you. Chief Del Papa and Jonathan O'Brien from the town of Holbrook. Well, on Saturday, November 8th, 2025, Officer Jonathan O'Brien was the first officer dispatched to a chaotic scene of a multi-vehicle crash and saved the driver who was trapped in a burning vehicle. Realizing the fire was rapidly growing Despite bystanders' efforts to put it out with a fire extinguisher, Officer O'Brien instructed the bystanders to move away for their own safety and entered the cab to pull the trapped driver to safety seconds before the pickup became fully engulfed in flames. Had Officer O'Brien not acted as quickly as he did, there is no doubt the trapped victim would likely have died because of his severe leg and foot injuries would have prevented him from being able to get himself out of the vehicle. Officer O'Brien's action displayed not only impressive critical thinking skills, but extraordinary bravery, courage, and selfishness in the face of extreme risk and imminent danger to himself and others. He's a credit to the Holbrook Police Department and the law enforcement community. Holbrook Magistrate Arthur. Now this is, we're going to need a trailer truck for this one. This is the Randolph Police Department, and I see why Chief Murag kind of delegated this to you, Deputy Green. And so I always say about the Randolph Police Department, never have so few done so much with so little. And so it's a lot of, you can imagine there's a lot of stuff that goes on in Randolph. And I know that Officer Tewitt is one of my favorites. If there's something bad going on, he's usually there involved in it or a witness. If he's not, some of the officers got that. Officer Joseph Rell, Detective Kevin Elred, Detective Calvin Duncan, Detective Matthew Rodman, Detective Michael Tewitt, Detective Sergeant Jason Fisher, Officer Craig Staffier, Officer Stephanie Saintville, Officer Letta Fernandez, Officer Wilfred St. Hilaire, Sergeant Kevin Gilbert, and they actually had mutual aid from Holbrook Deputy Chief Casey Superint. So on October 5th, 2025 at about 1:30 a.m., Officer Joseph Rell maintained composure and calm decision-making even though his personal safety was threatened when his marked cruiser was surrounded and attacked by individuals during a street takeover at a major town intersection. Despite the chaos, Officer Rell calmly radioed for backup as he slowly maneuvered his cruiser out of the intersection while under assault. Without any regard for his own personal safety, Officer Rell acted selflessly and professionally to protect the safety of the perpetrators. Over the following months, Officer Rell also helped the detectives to identify and charge several suspects. In another case in November 2025, two women were assaulted and robbed within hours in separate attempted armed carjackings. The patrol and detective divisions collaborated in an exemplary manner, resulting in the suspect's arrest in less than 24 hours. Officer Craig Staffier and Holbrook Deputy Chief Casey Superint, his canine partner, located significant evidence that allowed officers to corroborate Elmo information connecting the suspect to the crimes. I always like when you have Elmo, we can find those people. Officer Stephanie St. Hilaire, Officer Lita Fernandez, Officer Wilfred St. Hilaire interviewing the victims and obtained valuable information concerning the crimes. On their days off, Detectives Calvin Duncan and Matthew Rodman processed significant crime scenes, retrieved videos, and conducted follow-up interviews. Detective Sergeant Jason Fisher worked around the clock to obtain evidentiary GPS tracking data with the help of probation and the court system. The suspect, a sex offender who had failed to register, was surveilled and arrested less than 24 hours after the crimes took place. The teamwork and the quick apprehension of the suspected potentially prevented additional women from being victimized. In addition, an unrelated motor vehicle larceny was also closed at the same time. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Yeah, sure. You better get the wide angle lens on. Milton Chief John King. Ironically, he's not the tallest, but he was a police prosecutor for many years in this court, and he stole one of my prosecutors and married her, who's now a Quincy police officer. So you have Officer Mark Menchie and Michael Cherry Jr. Over a series of dates in the summer and fall of 2025, Officers Mark Menchie and Michael Cherry Jr. responded to several unrelated incidents, all of which involved life or death situations. These incidents included subjects barricading themselves in dwellings, suicidal individuals, motor vehicle crashes involving serious injuries, and multiple amputations. In each of these emergency calls, the officers took quick and decisive action to gain access to the individuals involved. They de-escalated volatile situations and provided critical life-saving medical treatment to save the lives of individuals. Congratulations on a job well done. I don't see my friend Chief Kennedy here, and so the Quincy police officers, James Dalton, Andrew Mitten, William Murphy, Patrick Watkins, and Nicholas Ralston. I'll have to give the chief a little plug. He and his sister were my children's babysitters, so I have to at least be nice to him. And I see retired police officer Dan Mitten, so I'm assuming that Andrew is yours as well. So I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Here's the chief now. I just giving you the up. I didn't see you hiding over there. I told you you took good care of my kids.
I did.
On December 13th, 2025, police officers James Dalton, Andrew Mitten, William Murphy, Patrick Watkins, and Nicholas Ralston demonstrated exceptional professionalism, courage, and composure when they responded to a horrific, bloody domestic homicide involving the brutal and fatal stabbing of a woman by an ex-boyfriend. Despite the emotional toll of all the first responders can experience from witnessing such horrific sight, the officers rapidly secured the scene, coordinated with responding personnel, and rendering life-saving aid to the critically injured homicide suspect. Even in the face of anger, grief, and shock, these officers upheld the oath and the rule of law by rendering aid to a homicide suspect because that is what their profession demanded. These officers represent the very best of the professional policing, courage under pressure, respect for human life, and unwavering commitment to their oath regardless of the circumstances. Congratulations on a job well done. If anybody is looking for a picture, David Linton is the Chief Public Information Officer at the District Attorney's Office, and I'm sure he has nothing to do but answer your calls and send pictures out to you, so don't be afraid to call him. I thought I'd give you something to do, David. The Weymouth Police Department, Chief Richard Fuller, Officer Evan Riley, Officer John Aarons, Detective Andrew Lazinski, and my good friend Mayor Melise. Right, on February 19, 2026, officers were dispatched to an apartment on Garofalo Road for a report of a child screaming. Upon arrival, officers detected loud religious chanting and yelling inside the dwelling, but received no response when they announced themselves. Officer Evan Riley approached the back door and saw a woman with a child in a chokehold and heard her chanting. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Riley and Officer John Aarons made entry after Detective Andrew Lozinski retrieved an axe from a neighbor and broke a front window. Once inside, it took several officers to free the girl from her mother, who continued to chant while trying to strangle her. The swift and courageous response of these officers saved the young girl's life and prevented a deeply troubling situation from ending in tragedy. My sincere congratulations on a job well done.
Just two more words from me. And I said this at the beginning, I want to say it now. The awards that were just presented to the police officers are really presented to the families, the police officers and their own families who share in these awards for everything that they've done for our community. So please, a round of applause for the families of the police officers. Second, I just want to recognize and thank, we've done it, but I want to recognize and thank Mark Crosby from Quincy Cable. He's here every year without fail, was here at 7 o'clock setting up, and so thank you, Mark. Well,
To give the benediction, we invite forward Rabbi Levi Lazelle from Shabbat of the South Shore.
I'd like to just first start with a condolences to the Tobin family. Your father was a very special man, and coming here for the past number of years definitely was very evident and clear. A man of great faith and kindness, a very special inspiration. And so condolences to the family and friends. Should only be good news. We'll start with a prayer. Almighty God, Master of the universe, we gather today to honor and express gratitude for the courageous service of our law enforcement officers and all who labor in the pursuit of justice. Indeed, we gather today to fulfill one of your 7 universal Noahide laws, the commandment to establish and govern by just law, ensuring that society can thrive in tranquility and peace. A just society does not arise on its own. It is built by men and women who recognize that justice is not merely a civic duty, but a sacred responsibility. Bless those entrusted with this sacred responsibility, the judges who seek justice with wisdom, integrity, and compassion, and the law enforcement officers who courageously protect our communities and at times even putting themselves in harm's way to help ensure that the rule of law is upheld. As we approach the 250th anniversary of the founding of this great nation, we take inspiration from our nation's founding fathers, especially from the presidents born and raised here in Quincy, who recognized the importance of faith in you as the key to building a moral and healthy society. It was you who blessed their efforts, or our founding fathers and the pilgrims who came before them, in seeking a place of freedom to serve you. And may their example inspire us to deepen our faith in you and merit your continued blessings upon our nation and all its people. Almighty God, bless all those gathered today and our communities, that we may become the builders of a more peaceful, kinder, and hopeful world, a world as you envision it, guided by the respect for the divine image within each of us. May no harm or evil befall the dedicated men and women of our judicial system and law enforcement. Grant, Almighty God, that our law enforcement officers return safely from every shift in physical health and emotional strength to their families and loved ones. Bless their families and loved ones who make their own quiet sacrifices in support of them. And through following in your ways, may we speedily merit the ultimate redemption. With awareness of your presence will fill the world, and hate, strife will disappear, and justice and love and compassion will reign supreme. Now let us say, Amen.
Amen.
At this time, our Law Day ceremony has concluded. We invite everyone to the lobby for cake and cookies. Thank you.